Golden Hour Part 5 diary. What did it just say? San asked the others, already prepared to channel electricity through the water if things went awry. The creature's pronunciation was slurred, and no one could fully make sense of what it was saying. No one except Woo-young. Mother bird. Young, hold the hose steady! As Woo-young quietly repeated Sopro's words to himself, his grasp faltered slightly and the fire hose began to thrash like a wriggling eel. At Jong-o's warning, Yuno reacted a split second faster, grabbing the wildly writhing hose. Startled, Woo-young hastily caught hold of it again as well. I don't think water alone is going to be enough. The water seemed to do little more than wash away the sludge that held the Frankenstein monster together. It wasn't doing much damage. As its earthen skin was stripped away, the Frankenstein monster's muscles and skeletal frame were laid bare. Mother bird. Why did Sopro call us that? Lost in thought and unable to focus on the attack, Woo-young found his thoughts drifting. He was suddenly reminded of something the scholar they had met through Yuno once said. The nature of this stone is like a child, and the king in possession of this stone becomes the parent of that child. Therefore, if the king has an evil heart, the child will learn that wickedness, and if the king has a good heart, it will learn goodness. Sopro was like a child. From that perspective, everything it had done began to make sense. A child, guided more by curiosity than judgment, reaches out first, driven by instinct rather than reason because they have so little experience of the world. And it is through those very experiences that they begin to learn how the world works. If Sopro was a child, then the very first emotion it felt upon entering this world must have been wonder, followed by a curiosity to experience more. From joy and happiness to sorrow and despair, from shyness and embarrassment to shame and fear, and even to terror and anger, its emotions must have stretched outward in every direction, and along the way it would inevitably have been wounded, hurt and marked by a world that had once seemed so new and beautiful. Mother bird. Mother bird. As Woo-young tried to see things from Sopro's perspective, it finally dawned on him that Sopro had been calling him the mother bird, the one who had brought it into this world, the first person it had encountered upon emerging into it, the one who had made it feel joy, happiness, and excitement for the very first time. It's coming this way! San! San started the engine of his food truck. Grabbing the long cable he had already hooked up to the battery, he sprinted toward Seonghwa. Everyone's wearing boots, right? The moment he heard their answers, San thrust the cable into the gushing stream of water. The current surged along the water and shot upward. Electricity coursed through the creature, circling its entire body. It let out a pained groan. It worked! They might not be able to kill it, but it seemed possible to knock it out for a moment. The members let out a sigh of relief. Then it happened. The food truck's engine suddenly died. The electricity racing along the water cut out all at once. What? There's no way that thing has allies. As one, their eyes snapped towards the driver's seat of the food truck. Everyone, stop! Woo-young shouted as he turned to the others. Sometime in the chaos, he had rushed over to the food truck and turned off the engine. Deciding they had to attack before the creature recovered, Yosong restarted the engine, but almost immediately, Woo-young shut it off again. Yosong looked at him, his face etched with confusion. Are you out of your mind, or did Sopro sync with you or something? My mind is clearer than it's ever been, Woo-young answered with a firm, resolute expression. Jong-o, can you shut the valve too? Huh? No, if we do that, then that thing… Please, I have something in mind. At Woo-young's unwavering insistence, Jong-o hesitated only a moment before closing the fire hose valve. The water stopped, and with it the electric current. Fortunately, the creature was still too overwhelmed with pain to regain its senses. I know it's hard to trust me after causing something this big, but just this once. Trust me. Woo-young connected his phone to the speaker attached to San's food truck. Soon, music began to flow through the mud-soaked village. It was that song, the one the members had recorded together for the first and last time after returning to World A. There's no way something covered in corpses and mud would have memories or emotions, and there's no way it would react to this music we've never even released into the world. As the creature began to recover from the pain, Seonghwa, growing anxious, pressed Woo-young. Jong-o, who had kept a hand on the valve, moved to turn it again. At the same time, San signaled to Mingi, who stood beside the food truck, to start the engine. Let's trust him. Watching Woo-young's trembling hands, shaking as his fingers dug into his palms, Yosong spoke to the others. Normally the one who nagged the most, Yosong's words surprised even Woo-young. In truth, he had often thought Yosong was the one who trusted him the least. Jung Woo-young might act a little reckless sometimes, but he's always taken responsibility for his actions. Yosong firmly gripped one of Wooyoung's shoulders as if urging him to go through with what he had decided, and then stepped away from the food truck. If it doesn't work, turn the valve immediately, Jongho. And Wooyoung, you start the engine. Wooyoung nodded once in gratitude, then he tossed the car keys to Mingy. If things go sideways, you might have to start the engine. Stay right here and don't go anywhere. What? What are you planning? Instead of answering, Wooyoung raised the volume of the music. Now freed from the pain, Sapro turned toward the food truck where the music was playing, and in front of it stood Wooyoung. Facing the towering Sapro, Wooyoung looked impossibly small. Do you remember this song? Without warning, Wooyoung spoke to Sapro. The others, worried that Sapro might charge at him, prepared to attack at a moment's notice. After I brought you out into the world, this is the song I listened to on that first train home. On his way home after awakening Sapro, Wooyoung had listened to this song. At the time, he wasn't sure if Sapro's power, as Left Eye had described it, was real. But when that red light scattered and filled Yosong's villa, he felt a certainty, a belief that his dream might finally come true. He believed that the desire to sing and dance together again with the members would reach them. His heart had raced with a vague hope that he might relive that same exhilarating experience of overwhelming camaraderie again. So, as he watched the sky gradually brighten, he boarded the first train home and listened to the last song they had sung together. Sunlight had poured into the train carriage, filling it with a gentle warmth, and through the headset covering his ears flowed a soft melody that seemed to match the moment perfectly. He hadn't realized it then, but Sapro must have already been inside him, sharing in that feeling and memory. Listening to the music, Sapro blinked slowly, as if memories and emotions buried deep within her were beginning to surface. Sapro twisted in anguish as she clutched her head. When Sapro had inhabited human bodies before, and they had gagged while recalling certain memories, Sapro had only felt a vague, instinctual urge not to be expelled. She had never understood the emotions those memories stirred. But now, the memories rising within Sapro were her own. When she had first been freed from that unbearably small world and was held in the embrace of her mother bird, she had looked out at the dazzling world through his eyes and listened to that same warm music. Though it wasn't even truly her own head, it felt as if it were burning. A wave of nausea rose, but there was nothing to throw up. She and her body were already bound as one. To expel Sapro would be the same as casting out her own heart. Did it work? He studied Sapro, her body hunched over, head buried between her arms. She looked just like the others had before regaining their senses. But then... Jongho! The moment of hesitation broke. Sapro, now even more enraged than before, charged at Wooyoung with terrifying speed. Alarmed, Hongjung signaled to Jongho, and Jongho immediately opened the water valve. Song called out to Mingy, who had frozen in shock, and the moment Mingy started the engine, they heard Yosong yell. Jongho-young! Wooyoung, don't! But Wooyoung was already moving, running toward Sapro as it charged straight at him. Yosong ran to grab him, but it was too late. Sapro opened her massive jaws and swallowed Wooyoung whole. It was over in an instant, with no chance to attempt another attack with water and electricity. Turn it off, Mingy. They couldn't bring themselves to try another attack when there was a chance Wooyoung might get caught in the blast. Everything had happened in the blink of an eye. They were all frozen in terror. No. No! Yosong had always shown his affection by picking on Wooyoung. At first, it had been out of embarrassment, but over time it had become a habit. His words often came out sharper than intended, and he often regretted them afterward. This bad habit of Yosong's reared its head on that day, too, when they had all gathered at his villa for the first time in a long while. When Wooyoung suggested that they try to get back together as a group again, saying that they hadn't truly gone all the way yet, Yosong had instinctively pushed back. Thinking of the members who had spent 3 years building new lives, his words had come out harsher than intended. He could picture it all too clearly, the hardships they must have faced while carving out new paths, the ways they would have had to steady themselves, convince themselves to keep going, and push through it day after day. And so, he pretended not to understand Wooyoung's feelings, because it was easier that way, even though, deep down, he understood them all too well. That night, the night Wooyoung awakened Sapro, Yosong had seen everything. He had woken up thirsty, went for a sip of water, and was on his way back to bed when he witnessed it. He'd seen Wooyoung release Sapro and make a desperate wish, and yet, Yosong had not stopped him. Because, in truth, a part of him missed that time as well. Perhaps he simply didn't want to admit that he carried the same lingering regrets that Wooyoung did. Perhaps he had dismissed them as a childish impulse, forcing them down. Maybe that was why he always made such sharp remarks whenever Woo-young's words struck a chord, reaching something real within him. And now, Yosong felt it was far too late, leaving him to drown in regret. For the first time, he had shown his trust in Woo-young, only for Woo-young to be put in danger because of it. He had never told him properly how grateful he was, how much he cared for him, and how simply having him by his side gave him more strength than he could ever put into words. He couldn't lose him like this. Without a second thought, Yosong ran toward Sopro to save Woo-young. Sopro roared, kicking up clouds of dust and dirt into the air. The mud and debris were swept up by the wind, swirling violently and forming a massive vortex. It coiled around Sopro, expanding as it spun, growing larger with every passing moment. "Grab Yosong!" Mingi caught Yosong as he was being pulled into the vortex. Sunghwa grabbed Mingi's arm, Hongjung seized Sunghwa's hand, Yuno held onto Hongjung, Jongho gripped Yuno, and Son latched onto Jongho. But the vortex, now like a raging tornado, swallowed them all without mercy. "Don't let go, no matter what!" With those final words, the members disappeared into the storm.